it's showing the same way to watching The Queen's Gambit Season 1, Episode 3, Doubled Pawns. Thank you so much, Natasha, for sponsoring this show. I have loved the first 2 episodes, and I am excited to continue Beth's journey. Let's go. My mother wasn't well, was she? Is that another suicide attempt? Oh. I know it was a long time ago and things were different, but my lord, these people needed help. Not what they got. Fancy. Or is that just a bathroom? Still fancy. Oh, that was the most childlike thing I think we've seen her do ever. She's really feeling safe, and that makes me very happy.
That right there.
I knew Thomas Hanks was in this. I've been waiting for him.
The throat. It's all pawns, no hope.
It's a very different chess player.
Here, look, I'll show you, alright? What does white
These
do
are
here?
her people.
Queen takes pawn.
Playing too many opens, it can only hurt me, you know what I mean? Good luck.
He's a weird character, that's for sure.
Beth Harmon.
Shit.
First one done.
Harmon?
I'm sorry, who will get to play?
We're not. You destroy everyone you play, Harmon. I can only lose so much.
Focus on the brilliant child you have. I mean, I suppose given that she's lost one, that's not exactly the most helpful advice.
It's so much more exciting than I imagined.
Did you watch the whole game?
Of course.
Beth. When he brought out his rook, then took that pawn,
She's a
I thought you were done
genius.
for.
What's pretty good?
More than in the States.
I do agree. Something that Natasha, who sponsored this, wonderful Natasha, said in a comment on Patreon about the last episode was that instinctively we do judge her mother for immediately being like, money making, I'm gonna milk this as much as I can. But as Natasha pointed out, there is obviously the element of she doesn't know how else to make money, and she kind of suddenly found herself in a position needing money. But it doesn't sit right with me that there's such a focus on money, and I understand why. And I like that she did come to watch, because if she was actually just sitting in the room counting the pennies and not taking any interest in what Beth was doing, I would be much more like. So the fact that she's like, she came and she watched, she's trying. We'll give you a benefit of the doubt for now.
The Soviets are murder. They eat Americans for breakfast over there.
I don't think there's been an American with a prayer against them in 20 years.
That's the game that we
It's like
started
ballet.
with, isn't it?
They pay people to play. That's Rudolph. He's a master.
I love watching her play. I don't understand what's happening, but she's just so confident.
And that's me.
Well done.
I will. Perhaps you could give me 10% as an agent's commission.
Let's make it 15%,
Okay.
which would be $49.54.
She's a very smart girl. Okay as well. I was worried that she was going to try and take half or take most of it, and even phrase it as, oh, I'll make a fund for you, you know, kind of. The fact that she only wanted like 10% of the money, and it's better. Because I mean, yes, obviously the expenses are coming out of the winnings. Expenses aren't coming out of her bank. But yeah, again, I like this. You know, she's not a monster. As long as she keeps up the praise of Beth beyond the money making, this is promising. And then it was very Beth to raise the amount that she's offering.
She shows the assurance of a player twice her age. That's national recognition, dear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid she's had a bit of a relapse. The doctor wants to keep her in bed for a few more days.
I mean, I support this.
I'm sure she'll be better by never seen in a child. The poor dear. Yeah. Lots of liquids.
But at the same time, her education is important too, though, I suppose. I mean, she's fine with like her maths education. She doesn't need that, but she does need the rest of it too. And maybe she doesn't if she has chess.
How's your meal?
It's maybe the best Christmas we've ever had.
She's not joking. That's the sad thing. That's true. Maybe this Christmas could have been just about the two of you enjoying Christmas, but at the same time, Beth loves playing chess, so...
It must have been such a distraction from life in such a depressing place. I mean, you must have been very lonely.
Let's focus on the positives of her genius.
You saw the king as a father and the queen as
Jesus
a mother. I mean,
Christ.
one to attack, one to protect.
They're just pieces. Feel safe in it. I can control it. I can dominate it.
This interview, she's too young to be giving
And
this kind
it's
of interview.
predictable. So if I get hurt, I only have myself to blame.
How interesting.
See, that was a very vulnerable statement to put out in the world.
Elizabeth, creativity and psychosis often go hand in hand.
Fuck off, she's a
For that
child.
matter. Genius and madness.
You think I'm crazy?
No, of course not.
I think that's
was just
enough.
asking.
Mm-hmm. We should have stepped in
Has the one to
sooner.
finish. At what may be the world's most difficult
getting-
game. But
She's
once
not got
that
her
boy
own
were a girl,
style.
the nation's top chess tournaments strolls a teenage girl
Hmm.
with bright, intense eyes.
She's making her
from
way in the
Fairfield
world.
High School in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh dear.
Where was I?
Don't tell me this woman's gonna get lung cancer and die.
It's all Greek all of a sudden.
Did you ever think maybe it's the drinking that's making you sick?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, please. To motherhood.
You're gonna leave her alone again.
Friday night, 7:30. Can you make it?
She's popular enough for you now, is she? But I mean, if she can enjoy some normal people things, go for it. But then the rest of me is like, screw them, find your own. She's a very independent young woman for the 60s.
What about the boys? Are they good looking? Do you date any of
You
them?
don't fit in with this crowd, sweetheart.
There's not really much time for that.
Beth, go
I
home.
love this song. Turn it up.
This isn't your place. Beth. Leaving is good. Did you take something? Sweetheart, this isn't good. 3 years later, right? She's 18/16. Much more self-confident. I like that she's still got a similar length hair, but it's more styled now.
I didn't see yours. I told myself that the Open's not as important as the U.S. Championships.
Oh, no. No, it's not. But I got a camera in my room.
In your room.
She's an 18-year-old girl, sir.
Chessboards, too. We could play.
He's very handsome, but how old is he? Red flag central.
Hey, Rui Lopez.
He made it.
You could go by the board.
It's on your bed, sir.
You've grown up, Harmon. You've even gotten good looking.
How old are you? Please, can we clarify that as well, sir? And how old Beth is now? She may be 19 at most. Was he on the university team when they first met? He's too old for her. Remember when she was a child and you knew her?
Oh. Let's play chess.
Okay.
That did kind of kill the vibe, which I'm okay with.
Thanks.
Do me a favor and hand me a beer on the desk over there.
No, stop drinking.
What do you want? No, you're even.
She has had stuff before and she's not hiding it right now.
When I took it over, it had 3,000 all by myself.
You really shouldn't.
Half of this should make quite a score.
You have a big tournament tomorrow.
If you're gonna have one, get me one too.
That's what I had in mind.
This isn't good. It's just awful, isn't it? Knowing that, like, for chess, everything is going to rise as it should,
My
but
first
everything
match
else
was
is going to go
against this guy from
down.
Oklahoma.
So well respected.
I've seen him a couple of times.
Okay, Thomas
There's always a lot
Sanks was
of
in
power around
town.
him.
Oh, well, of course, he's the U.S. champion.
He's Benny Watt. Picture of him at 13 in front of a whole bunch of sailors. He played against the entire team at Annapolis without losing a game.
Sounds like someone else I know.
When I was 9, I was playing Mr. Scheibel in the basement. Anyway.
Yeah, but that was from lack of opportunity, sweetheart.
I don't
not
suppose
skill.
there's anyone you're...
I needed to get the rook out.
I know you could have lost your advantage.
I don't think so. I don't want to set it up and think it out.
She's never lost before. Or noticed a flaw in her. Is it gonna rattle her, seeing a way she could have lost?
Celtic could have beat me.
It's thrown her off her game. Of course we come here.
On to bishop 4, right?
Yes.
Is that why he tried to throw her off, so that she'd not play at her best during this? Don't overthink it. Stay focused. You can do this, and even if you don't win this time, you will win. This may be her first loss, just because she's up against a player that is also supremely talented. For the first time. But I believe in her.
I thought he could hear my heart beating and know how panicked I was.
He did rattle her. Which is, in a way, it's going to be good for her to have been
Get
rattled.
out of it. I wanted to hammer his weaknesses. I wanted to show that fucking pirate that I could beat him, even though I didn't play the way he thought I should.
The fucking pirate.
And he captured my center pawn, my protected pawn. The more I looked, the worse it all became. Caught me completely off guard.
I mean, in the
It
long
was
run, this is
brutal.
good.
Surprised
She
they
needed
hide it
to.
other people. He was careful.
She needed a loss at some point, awful as
I
that
had to
sounds.
retreat, but he kept coming.
Tough game.
But that's brutal as it is, it's still something that needed to be done in the long run, because if she's losing here will only help her boost into the future.
You'll split the prize money. You'll be co-champions. You will still
Ooh.
get a trophy.
She didn't even lose, they drew. Or was it the fact that he won which equaled them? I don't know.
Albeit a smaller one. Fair.
I didn't see what he was doing.
Okay, then we use this as a learning
You mess
experience.
everything all the time. I know what it feels like to lose.
Yeah, I bet you do.
She's lashing out because she's hurting. She's your daughter.
And
Beth.
Were he and Roger sharing the room like together? Then why was he coming on to Beth? Kind of, or were they just sharing the room for like price reasons? I'm glad she found a good place. And they found a mother, and they have a different relationship to maybe normal, but at least they have each other. Although her mother's health scares me. So, the big thing I've been waiting for happened in this episode, she lost a match. It kind of inevitably had to happen at some point. Nobody can go through winning absolutely every single time. And maybe someone like Beth could do it, they could be that good, but she's not going to be the only chess prodigy, the chess genius that there is in the entire world. And I think it is really important for her to face that hurdle, to face that speed bump now, when she's still young. She's still got, you know, she got to the final as well. If she'd lost in an earlier round, that would have been way worse for her. I think it's important for her to learn that, because she's experienced that feeling. She's experienced that game of panic, of thinking her plan's working, of having it derailed, and now she can learn from that and move and go forward. Yes, it's hard to see that in the moment when you've just literally lost and it feels like the world's ending, but I think in the long run this will be really, really good for her to have experienced this loss. Yes, I would have loved for her to be able to beat him and to prove that she was the greatest, but she's still so young. She has a lot of time. Now, I don't like older men coming on to little girls. I don't like it. Maybe Beth is meant to be 19 by now. I haven't added up the years. I know she was 15 when they adopted her. It was 63 at the beginning, so maybe enough time had passed that she's 19, not 18. Yes, it's not technically as creepy as it would be if she was younger, but it's still creepy. And like, if you knew somebody when they were a little kid, why would you be interested? It's fine. Like, you meet a 15-year-old. I don't understand people who then want to date them a few years later. Um, but I think it was really lovely to see the way the world was respecting her. How easily and seamlessly she fits into the chess world. She understands it. She doesn't need to prove herself. She doesn't need to do anything else. She already has done that by being brilliant. It was nice as well to see her find her own sense of style. Yes, it was still in keeping with the time period she was living in, the 60s. You know, she wasn't kind of having some crazy outlandish fashion, but it wasn't a typical girly kind of. It was Beth, which is good. She didn't feel the need to conform, and she went to the apple pie pledge thingamajig, and she was like, "What the fuck is this?" And she left. She did also steal some alcohol. I'm obviously concerned about her alcohol dependency and her drug dependency. It seems as though mental health instability and addiction may run in her family, and unfortunately she's also been adopted into a similar family. She's not really seen many healthy coping mechanisms, so of course she's going to stick to the ones she has that are unhealthy. And given that we know the night before her match against the Russian champion that she's desperate to play, she's going to be waking up hungover, or at least, you know, after a very big night. It is concerning to know that that's the trajectory she's going on. In terms of chess, she is just making a name for herself, making a decent amount of money, and shining. And she's found this world where she understands the rules, where she matters, where she's respected. And I do think she needed this bump because it keeps her a little bit grounded. It reminds her that she's not invincible, but at the same time, she got to the final, and he played mind games with her by telling her that move, knowing that she was likely the person he was going to be facing in the final match. He threw her off her game. So he is someone to look out for. I love Thomas Sangster. I've loved Thomas Sangster for a very, very long time. He was one of my favourite actors when I was a kid, and you know, he still is now. He was also a kid. We were all kids. So it was good to finally see him. So many, like, was this show entirely set in the UK or something? Because I feel like every single actor I recognise is actually English playing an American. But no, it was such a good episode. And seeing the way the school respected her, it's ridiculous, isn't it? The way popularity works. You know, she got in a paper a few times, even for something like nerdy and geeky like chess, but she was in the paper. Oh my god, maybe we can let her into our club. So it's nice to see Beth finding her confidence, finding her self-assurance, figuring out who she is, and who she is chess, and that is okay. And you know, in this episode we saw her start to consider dating, or at least sex, and starting to consider kind of other pursuits. I think you can have a perfectly happy life with just a honed in goal. This is what I do. I mean, if you think about like sports people, like gymnasts or whatever, yeah, maybe they read books or play video games or whatever occasionally, but like their whole life is just training for the next competition, you know, for athletes. So it's sort of a similar vibe there. It would be nice, I think, if we found out Beth really liked mystery novels, or you know, she liked to play Monopoly, or she had some kind of passion or hobby that was aside from chess. But she's definitely in her element when she has chess, and so that is a good thing. And I agree, the fact that the Life articles being so focused on she's a girl, she's a girl, she's a girl is ridiculous, but it's also inevitable in the 60s. Probably would even happen nowadays to a degree. But yeah, this was a good episode. She needed that speed bump. It was lovely to watch her grow up. I'm very intrigued about how old she is now. Both, like, given that when she was adopted, they said, yes, she's 13 and she was 15. If she's technically legally not her age, or what's happening with that. Her relationship with her mother, I like that she calls her mum and her mother now. Like, there's not a weirdness there. They have settled into this dynamic and it works. And you know, I did like that as much as she doesn't have a clue what's going on with chess, and she hasn't really, you know, I think if that was me, I would have made a real effort to learn chess so that I at least know what she's talking about. And I feel like she's beyond just listening to Beth. She's made no effort to learn. But she does come to watch her. She does listen to her when Beth needs to talk it through and rant and talk about it, or she listens, she lets her practice. You know, she's caring in that way, and she's supportive and there for Beth. She made sure that they did nice, like, month-daughter things, girls' day or whatever. I don't like the fixation on how much money she's making, but I can kind of understand it. I think it gave Beth a sense of stability and safety, just as an outsider looking in, especially as someone from the future. You can just see on how unhealthy it is in a lot of ways as well. They're kind of becoming codependent, but also her mother is not getting any help. She is killing herself with this drinking and the smoking. And given that she was ill enough that Beth didn't go to a chess championship, that makes me very concerned that maybe she's not going to last much longer, which would just be the last thing Beth needs, to be orphaned all over again. I wonder if technically Mr. Wheatley, or whatever his name is still her legal guardian, technically, as well. But it is both lovely and sad at the same time. But I think it's also, you know, life isn't roses and perfect, so it does make sense. And the moment when Beth was like, no, not 10%, 15% was really lovely as well, because it showed you that Beth does recognize and care for this woman, but also kind of recognizes that she needed a bit of help too. Beth has a very good heart. I have no idea where this is going beyond. It's so funny because I feel like I both have no idea where the show is going and a very clear picture of where it's going at the same time. Because obviously, you know, Beth is laser focused on becoming the best, winning, becoming the US champion, getting to travel Europe, getting to go to Russia, and getting to face the Russian champion. And we know she ultimately will get there. So we know she's going to keep rising and rising and rising. But in terms of Beth's personal life, is her mother going to die? Is she going to go off? Like, is she going to kind of spiral at this point? Is this loss going to set her spiraling, or is she going to be like, nope, refocus, we've got this? I'm very intrigued to find out. I do also think there is a lot of trauma in her past that needs to be unpacked. I mean, yes, I think any kid, if your mum goes underwater and doesn't come up again, you would get scared. But how quickly that child, little Beth, went from being like, oh, mum's swimming, to mum, was a lot. And that definitely shows you that she is aware that something isn't right with her mum. And when we saw the marks from one suicide attempt, we know that when they crashed and when her mother did die, she told Beth to close her eyes. So she killed herself then and was potentially trying to kill both of them. You can definitely look at this and see that this is a family, a woman that was failed by the society she lived in, and it was a different time. It was the 50s, but you know, she was still failed, and her husband failed them as well. Any parents she had, family, whatever, you know, they were failed. Beth is forging her own place in the world, but she's doing it with some very unhealthy coping mechanisms, and that stresses me out. Thank you so much, Natasha, for sponsoring this show, and thank you for watching.